Hello, this is a short video on how can you use Maven with JavaFX and IntelliJ. You probably heard about Maven and think it would be really cool to use it in your JavaFX projects. So what is Maven? This is the first thing I'm going to talk to, and then I'll show how to get started with a Maven project. And adding IntelliJ, I mean JavaFX here. So how can we start with the Maven project and then add JavaFX? And how can we add Maven if we have an existing JavaFX project? So both of them require some knowledge on how JavaFX works from the beginning and just not creating it as a project. And it also needs some knowledge about Maven project. So Maven is kind of like a big, it's a build tool that we can use. So it has making it a lot easier when you're doing bigger projects to share libraries and stuff between process between different programmers in a process. There's also a lot of build tools and everything. But what I'm going to focus on in this video is how we can use libraries, use Maven for handling mainly the libraries that we want to use, so that we can get around some of the problems with using JavaFX with IntelliJ and the normal where we have to add stuff to a run script and stuff like that. So this is basically what it's about here, showing an easy way to add JavaFX to a Maven project and an easy way to add JavaFX to a Maven project. So there is actually some documentation in here. If we look at openjfx.io, we can see that they have this guide here called OpenJFX Docs, getting started with JFX, and they actually have some pretty solid documentation on how to use this, and even on how to use it in IntelliJ. So there is a Maven guide here, but this is for using it a command line. So the easy way is to find this one called JavaFX and IntelliJ, and the one I'm going to show is the one called non-modular. So I'm not going to use the modular system, just to make it more simple. So here it says that when we want to do that, we start out creating a Maven project, but it also, you can verify and run and all of this stuff. And there's also how to do it in Gradle, but I'll focus here on Maven. So let's try to do this first. So the first thing that it focuses on here is starting with a Maven project and then adding JavaFX afterwards. So the first thing we need to do is create a Maven project. So that will automatically set up the Maven framework within and work nicely with IntelliJ. So it says Maven and it says enable create from archetype and stuff like that. I don't think we'll do it like that, but let me show you. So we'll go in here and I'll create a new project in here. And I'll take this Maven project, which is right here. And it actually wants to use an archetype here, or however you pronounce that. And it says to use that, but I think you'll get a better understanding if everything is not set up from the beginning. So I'll try to do it without this. And then we'll have to give it some name, and I'll just call it Maven test delete or something, so I know I can delete it afterwards. And then we have the group ID and stuff like that. You can set up any thing you would like here, like your own domain name or stuff like that. And we'll click finish. So what we can see now is we have a project structure that is a bit different from what we normally see. We have a main, and in main we have something called Java here, and in that we also have something called resources. So when we want to have a JavaFX project set up, we need two things. One of them, of course, we need some class files and stuff. We need a main method, and we also need an fxml file. I'm going to show that. It's a bit different than Maven. And we need a controller. So I'm going to create a project like the default one, just manually doing it from in here. So first off, we can see it opens up this nice POM file, which is the one that describes to Maven. It actually describes what you need in order to run this program. And the only thing it needs right now is that you have this compiler source 15 here. You can also click over here, it says Maven, and then you can actually see all the things you can do with Maven. There's this one called lifecycle here, where you can compile and stuff like that. So you can run that one, and it will try to compile the file. And it looks like build success. So now it actually built that configuration there. So that's it. There's no run configuration or anything like that. I'll show how to get that up and running. So we cannot press play here. We can only play these lifecycle things, and there's nothing here for actually running it. And there's something like install and deploy and compiler, but there's nothing really for running the program like it is from the beginning. So I'll show how to do that. So let's try to create a project first. So we'll keep, it's pretty handy to have Maven out here. So I'll keep that out here, make this a bit smaller so we have more space up here. And the first thing I'm going to do, let's create a main method. So I'm going to create that under Java, new, Java class, and we'll call that main to signify this is the main method. Just zoom in a bit. And then we'll make a public static void main, and we need the string args. This is the starting point for any Java application. So of course we need that. And we can even then we can go here and we can fill out what we need to do. So what we need to do is we need to start up the JavaFX application. So in order for this to work, we need to say that the main method here needs to actually extend application. So we're going to say extends application like that. And we can see that the IntelliJ smart system here cannot find that. So where do we get application? Let's see what we can do. It says create class application, run main. It's not really what we want to do. We could run this method, but it wouldn't do anything. So what is application? So this is from JavaFX. This is the minimum to get that started. We can create a class, but because we are using Maven over here, we can actually, this framework allows us to do something cool with IntelliJ, say add Maven dependency. So I've shown before how to add libraries through the project structure over here, but this is a lot much cooler way. So we just click add Maven dependency, and then we can search for the class that we want to add from Maven, and it actually pops up like this, which I think is really cool. And we can see that it says here application. So we can see there are different versions of that. And of course, by default, it takes the newest one. And because we're using Java 15, we would want to have the newest one, although, as I remember, it works with everything past version 11. So there shouldn't be any problem with that. So I'll just choose this one and click add, and then the magic happens. So now that we kind of added that, so it's still red, and that's because, but let's look in our POM file for a second. So now we can see it actually added a dependency here. So it means that now Maven knows that our program is actually dependent on JavaFX and something called JavaFX graphics here. So let's see if application is under JavaFX graphics. We can do that by taking import class, and now we can see application is actually here. So I click that and we import application. Now I get another error because application, I need to do something with that. I need to implement the start method. So I will click OK, and we can see that this overrides the start method. So the next thing that I need to do is I need to call a static method that's inherited from application that's called launch. This is how you launch a JavaFX application. And then you want to supply the arguments that you get from command line. It's not that important to understand. It's just you can put arguments and they are sent to JavaFX as well. So it kind of just wraps the arguments into JavaFX, so it's a GUI application instead of this console application. When it's done doing its magic in here in launch, we go back to our start method. I showed this in another video, the whole idea behind this. And what we can do then is we need to put some code here. I'll just copy something in here where we do, we need a fxml loader for loading an fxml file. We can also do it without fxml and manually create it, and then we load that into a root, and we set that as the root of the scene, and we set the scene as the first one on the stage that's created for us. So I copied this from somewhere else, so of course I just need to change stage here because this is the stage that's created. So stage here is the stage that's created by the launcher. So it sets up the first stage, that is the kind of what it boots up when the program starts. It starts with this stage. And by setting a new scene here, I get a scene on that stage which is needed to display something. So I also need to import the others. Let's see what problems we get into here. We can also import this class, and it did fine. So that's also part, I think, of the graphics package. Then let's go for parent. Let's see. That works fine. And then the loader, let's see what happens here. And all of a sudden, we can't just import that because the fxml loader is not really in the fxml graphics package. But cool enough, I can just click add Maven dependency, and I can see this is actually the package, the fxml package that I need. And I just add that, and now I can all of a sudden, again, this comes into my POM file. I see now JavaFX is here. Again, it takes the newest version, and now I can just import that class, and now that works. So that's cool and all. So now actually we can see we can run this, but of course we need to also have the appfxml file. So I'm just going to create a new fxml file. And the thing is, in Maven, we have to put it under resources. By default, only Java files are copied to the target here, meaning it cannot find the fxml file if it's not under resources because it's not copied into whatever target when we're building it. So a good thing is just put it under resources, or you would have to set up Maven differently. But by default, just put it under resources. So I'll create a new fxml file here, and I'll just call this appfxml. Click OK. And I then need to create a controller. I'm going to say app controller, and I'm going to get an error on that. And I don't know if it can automatically, yeah, it can create the class. So I click OK. So now I also have an app controller class. I have this with an anchor pane, and I have my main method here. So now I should actually be able to load that because this will load the appfxml, and the appfxml will use the app controller, which is actually here, so that we know whenever, so we can see that it actually works. And we could implement initializable for this class here and implement that method. And then we could just say it is working. So it will print it is working if it loads the app controller. So now we have set up like the basic stuff here. So now we should be able to run it. So what we can do is we can do like in all other cases, we can run the main application just by clicking run here, and we'll get an error. So what we can see here is JavaFX runtime components are missing. And that's because we need to set up where the runtime components are. We need to put the VM options. Let me show you here. We would need to put VM options here that would tell us that it needs to use the jar files for this particular one. But we don't want to use that because now we are using Maven, and Maven can do something a bit more intelligent. So what we can see if we go back to our original source here, where it used these archetypes, archetypes, or whatever they're called, we can see that it actually uses something here. Maybe it's a bit small, but it says here it uses a plugin here, um, which is called compiler plugin, and it also uses something else like that. So So let's try to see that, and it also talks about some other stuff here. So let's try to add that for a second. So we'll go back, go into our POM file, and now we would want to add um, the uh, the plugin. And the reason why we want the plugin is because the plugin is the one that will enable us to run the JavaFX application and set up everything for us. So we are not using the built-in run configuration in IntelliJ. We want to use Maven for doing that. So what we can do is we can go and find, and I did it a little differently than here. You can use the archetype if you want. But if you just say run hello world with Maven, you can see here that it uses this plugin here. So I'll just copy this part here and copy that for a second. And this is what I need, the JavaFX Maven plugin, and it needs to be under plugins. If we go here, we'll see something else. Let's see here. Wow. So we see that it goes under build plugins plugin, right? So let's try to create that. So we go back here and we're going to say build, and then it goes like this, plugins. And let's try to save that for a second. And then over here now, the plugin is not here. You just have to click here on this small update thing. And now we have JavaFX here. And now we have a task here called JavaFX run, and this can actually run our application. So this is what this plugin does. It actually makes us able to run the JavaFX application automatically. So if we do this and then we say run Maven test delete like this, it will copy it up here. You'll see that. So now it says so up here. And now we can actually just run the Maven build by clicking up here. We can still choose the other one that we had before, but this is running the JavaFX run from here. So we don't need to right click here and run each and every time. So we still have a problem here, cannot execute goal. And if we click on the run, we can see what is the actual problem here. And it says class not found exception hello FX. And this is a common mistake, and it wasn't really on purpose, although I think it's fine that I did this. But you can see that the main class name is not HelloFX, of course. So what did I call my main class? So my main class is called main, and which package is it in? It's in no package, so it's just called main. So let's go back to our POM file, and then we go to main like that. And let's try to run it again. And now we have a running program. So a couple of steps we needed to make, but most importantly, when you tried it a couple of times, it's pretty easy. So the cool thing about this is that when I save this, put it in a GitHub repository, it will actually also save this POM file. And this is independent of your computer. There's no real paths or anything here. Only this cool plugin here, and then these things here. The only thing you need to do though is that you won't get this. This won't be part of it. These configurations won't be part of it because they are tied to your computer. So when you open up this project by downloading it from GitHub or something like that, you would need to go in here and just right click here and then run this way. Then it will come up here and you can then put hide Maven over here and then just click up here whenever you want to run the program, just like you do normally, and you would never need to set up run configurations and anything like that. And then at some point you might need new dependencies, but as you saw, it's pretty easy in IntelliJ if you want to do that. So if I delete a dependency here and save that, we'll of course get some, yeah, I don't want to show it, but we'll get some problems, and it's very easy. You can just click on the small red icon for that. So yeah, so this was basically starting out with a Maven repository and then building JavaFX on top of that. So this is one way of doing it. The second way is oftentimes you might have a project already running. So you maybe have an existing JavaFX project and you want to add Maven to that. So let me try to show that instead. So I want the same thing now. I just want to do it in the opposite direction. So I don't have any project offhand that I can use. So I'm just going to create a new JavaFX project and set that up. And we have this template already. So we'll just take JavaFX application. I'll just call it Maven JavaFX something delete because I want to delete it later. And I'll just open over this window. So imagine this is some cool project that we made. And we want to convert this project into a Maven project. So now here I have my controller, I have my main method, and I have my sample fxml. And now I have my typical problem that I need to import that class. I can find it on the web, but because I haven't got Maven right now, I cannot look this up. You see, in the other example, I could actually click like look it up in Maven. And before in some of my other videos, I've shown how to go into project structure, and then you can go into libraries and you can add it here from Maven. But that will just download it to a computer. It won't really use Maven other than for like a file server, like a repository for downloading the libraries. So if we want to add Maven, we need to do we need to add it into our project so that IntelliJ knows what it is we actually want to do. So so what we actually need to do is we need to put it in here as a framework. So what we can do is we can add the framework support for Maven. So what we want to do is we have to click on the project, right click on the project like this, and then we're going for add framework support. And then there's a ton of stuff we can do here. But the interesting thing is to find somewhere where it says Maven. And we click Maven, and then we just click OK. And then what we can see is we get our famous little POM file here. So now we have that. Now it says error reading something. Let's see if that disappears by itself. But we also see we have the lifecycle tools from before, so we can actually click compile here. And if we would do that, it has problems because cannot find anything right now. So, and that's of course because we haven't added anything. It's still all red. So now that we added Maven and we have our POM file, we need to add two things. Like in my previous example, we kind of back to scratch. We need to import the application. So I'll go up here and say add Maven dependency JavaFX application add. And then it fixes most of the stuff. Then we want the fxml loader. And again, what we want to do here, let's see, for some reason it's not finding. Maybe if we do it up here instead, add Maven dependency, and then we choose JavaFX as well. So now we basically fixed our first problem, that is the dependencies. So now we should be able to try again, just run the build. And now it actually built the program. So we can see our target here. We can see it actually generated the controller and the main and everything. So one of the other things we can see is that it didn't actually copy the fxml file. So as I told before, we need either to change our build script for Maven to include fxml files. That's something that it copies to target. Or the easy solution is just saying that it's a resource, because it's not really a program that it needs to compile. It's just something that it uses. So I'll just move it into my resources folder. And if I build it again, I'll see now that it should pop up over here, like here, not under, still under classes, but not under sample. So it will just copy, this structure will just copy in here, just like sample copies in here, this will copy in here. So it's under classes right now. Okay, so the next thing is we want to run this as before. We couldn't really run this without using the build script from Maven. So we need to have, under plugins, we need to use the JavaFX plugin here. So a way to add this is to create a build configuration here by typing build and then plugins. And then we need to define the plugin that we want to use. So we say plugin, and then we're going for the group ID, and the group ID is org openjfx. And let's just take the it's not really, so it automatically wrote that. It's not that, because we want the plugin and we don't want the JavaFX. This is a dependency, not a plugin. The plugin is for running the program. So that plugin is called JavaFX Maven plugin, like that. And then the version for that is, we can just type 0 and it comes up with 005. This is the newest version of the plugin. Get a bit uneasy when I see like a version name that starts with 2 zeros, but that's okay. It actually works out in the end. And then we need to also set up, there's a special thing here where we need to set up something called configuration. And this is configuring the main class that we want to use. And we know in this it called it sample. It's in a package called sample. So I'll write sample. Oh, I thought it could auto. Okay, it couldn't do that. Yeah, now it works. Sample main, like that. That is our main class that we want to run. So if we want to create another main class or something else that it needs to run or call this like app instead of main, we can just change it here. So now our plugin is configured. We'll just reload Maven so we get our plugin down here. Open up JavaFX, and now we have the JavaFX run here. And if I right click and click this one here, it will copy it up here. So I can just run it by clicking this green button instead of manually doing it from in here each time. And now Now it should be working, but it's not really working. So you get this Maven error. You have to go up one to see what is the actual problem here. And it says application in application start method. And this is what we like to hear, because this actually means that it actually run the program. So the build is fine. It's not because it can't find the libraries or anything. It can also find the VM options. Everything is set up by the plugin, so that works. It's just because we are bad programs, we didn't, or I am a bad program, I didn't fix some errors in my program. So it says here, null point exception location required. And I have so much, I know this is always the same problem. I can see this is my code. So I go to this line 13 here, and we can see that it says get class, get resource, and it puts some dot dot really weird notation. If I look in my target build, I can see that it's actually in a folder like this. But I don't want to go up and then one folder and then do the sample, although I think this should actually work like that, because it will go, now it's under sample, it will go to classes, and then you see it pops up. But I think it's a better way to remove these two dots, because the beginning slash here means that it starts out from the classes folder. So this will be, the slash just means from the root of the project. So if I move controller and main around, and if I put it into, let me show you an example of why it, yeah, let's just see that it works like this as well. And then I'll explain the subtle difference between these. So this also works. So let's say I programmed it like this. Now I have the two dots, and we can see that that works equally well. And why change it? So if, for example, under sample here, I want to have a new package, and I was calling this sample like GUI, and then I want my controller to be part of that. I click refactor like that. So now my controller is under GUI instead. And if I try to run it now, it still works though. I think I need to build project again. It shouldn't work. Okay, maybe it cached or something. Oh, it's because I'm just running. Let's just do like a clean like that. So now I cleaned it. I removed that library, and then I run it again. Okay. I'm actually a bit surprised on that, because if you see controller, it, if I go up one directory, it goes into the sample. It's in the GUI, then it goes to sample. But really, this fxml file is under classes. So I think maybe there's some caching going on in here. I don't know. Wow, sorry about that. So I think maybe at some point it will break or something. I don't quite understand. So, but definitely I would say that it should be like this, because then it will be relative to this folder here instead of being relative to the folder that the controller is inside of. So that's basically it. So that was it for this video about Maven, using it with JavaFX and IntelliJ. Small introduction, how to add JavaFX to your Maven project, and how to add Maven to an existing project. So thank you for watching.